Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Resilience Training, Performance and Interpersonal Management Skills for a Better Practice and a Better Life, as part of the Industry Insight webinar series. Our speaker today is Claude Decloux. With 39 years of law practice and board certifications in civil trial and civil appellate law, Claude serves as an industry liaison for LawPay. In addition, he is past chair of the Texas Board of Legal Specialization, as well as the Texas Center for Legal Ethics and Professionalism. The presentation today will be followed by a Q&A. Please enter your questions into the question box in the webinar panel on the right side of your screen. All questions will be addressed at the end of the presentation. We are recording this webinar and we will be sending the video in a follow-up email in a few days. We will also post the video on our blog at www.lawtechnologytoday.org. Thank you all for joining us. We will now begin the webinar.
Thanks very much, Gabriella. Hi, everybody. This is Claude Decloux, and as she told you, I have been a lawyer now. Oh gosh, it's going on actually 42 years. I'm not a representative. When you hear a lot of these presentations, we know that our profession has problems, but a lot of times you hear from speakers from lawyer assistance programs. I'm just really one of those regular CLE speakers who comes to events and tells you stories on how to practice law, practice management, all these. I'm very fortunate that I've not had my own private story of addiction or recovery. I'm just an everyday lawyer like you. I'm here because I care about my fellow attorneys and the state of their health. So let's talk about this. A recent law review said that attorneys have the highest rate of depression of any occupational group in the United States. And let me say this really quickly. At the end, you'll have my email. This is actually an hour presentation that we've taken all the videos out of, and I will be going 100 miles an hour to get through it in 30 minutes. But Claude at LawPay, if I talk about a document that you'd like, or if you have any questions, just a very easy email that I use to get CLE feedback, and that's claude@lawpay.com. And if you have any questions for me, I'm glad to work those questions out for you after this if I can't get to many questions. We have the highest rate of depression of any occupational group in the United States. Can you imagine this? 28% of lawyers suffer from depression, and younger lawyers have higher rates, and the rate among male younger lawyers is the highest. And 19% have anxiety, and the rate among female lawyers is higher. So, but think about that statistic. 28% of your brothers and sisters practicing law suffer from depression, and 19%, 1 in 5, have anxiety. All right, so here's more lawyer problems. We have very high levels of substance abuse. They used a particular scale that they use, like at the Betty Ford Clinic, when asked about the amount that you drink and the frequency that you drink, that 36.4% of lawyers have high scores or positive scores within the range of problematic drinking, versus 15% for physicians, 36.4. Now, I've often wondered if that has something to do with the fact that lawyers are more willing to turn themselves in than physicians because of the stigma, of course, which I think is much greater if you're a practicing physician as an alcoholic. But we have unusual levels of stress. It's a very stressful profession. You know, you're always dealing with people's problems. And that leads to, of course, major relationship issues. So we need to know what we can do to help all of us have a better life and have better health. So here's what we have. Lawyers have the highest rates of suicide of any profession. Now, I always thought it was dentists, and that's not a joke. I always thought it was, but 11.5% have seriously considered suicide, and less than 1% have actually attempted suicide. So that's a huge rate within a profession. Why are we so depressed and sad? You know, there are really better ways to live, and we can all help. Only half of lawyers. I think back to my friends I made in law school. It makes me sad to know that half of them are unhappy. I will bet you now, with me practicing law 40 years and someone whose age starts well into the 60s, I'll bet at least half of my graduating class doesn't practice at all anymore for a number of reasons. You know, but I think the practice of law is a noble and important profession. We deserve to be contented and happy, right? But only half are satisfied, and that leads to stress and other health problems. So here's the signs, and of course, again, I'm sorry I'm speeding you through this like on the freeway, but when you talk to mental health professionals, these are the things that they say to look out for depression and other mental disabilities. You're always tired. If everyone and everything annoys you, I could now go into a whole thing as you get older, and I get more and more close to that folding chair on the porch. That yes, more and more things annoy me, but not to the point where I don't sleep enough or anything. You sleep too little or too much. Eating's become an issue. You're in pain everywhere. You don't care that you look messy. I ran into a friend of mine over the holidays who I hadn't seen, and he was a professor, and gosh, he just looked terrible, and he looked disheveled, and his hair hadn't been cut in a long time and everything. And of course, I found out later that he was going through a terrible divorce. And that I could tell just by the look of him that he was very, very depressed. There was something wrong. Or you're hiding from people. You don't show up at events anymore. Now, some people don't like to go to social events anymore. I love them. But if you decide, no, I don't want to go, I don't want to have to make small talk with anybody, that could be a sign. Maybe that's your personality, and that's fine. But if it's a sign, if that's a new event for you, or nothing interests you, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I'm fine. You beat yourself up over nothing. You're forgetful. You have trouble concentrating, and you think about dying. As you do get older, I think it is sort of a normal thing that people say, gosh, my time on this earth is somewhat statistically numbered. Now, I sort of realize now that if I can get another 20 good years out of life, that's a really, really good thing, and it makes me really appreciate every single day. But, okay, so the military, this is where we got this from. In 2008, the Army recognized a correlation between military troops suffering from low mental health and certain ongoing disorders. The soldiers were found most commonly to have, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, substance abuse disorders, and other things. But in an incredibly insightful move, they began to do research on how to treat and seek ways to proactively prevent these issues, right? So historically, the military hasn't been known for its open-minded or, feel-good beliefs. But in a move that we really should find instructive, they created this program to cultivate a culture of resilience in their troops and improved leadership. So let's talk about that. 6 core competencies is what they worked on. Self-awareness. How am I feeling? Why am I feeling that way? Is it, if I'm sad, is there a reason for me to be sad? Self-regulation, not letting your emotions get out of control. Optimism, look for good things, because it really changes, we're going to talk about that, it changes your brain chemistry to look for good things during your day. Mental agility, to be able to go from one task to another without breaking down. And that's most of us. I always compare us lawyers, if you're in a general practice like I am, we're like short order cooks. We're just like, boom, boom, we got to do this. Oh, no, this person's on the phone. I wasn't planning on talking to him today, but now I'm talking to him. And the judge is on the phone, and I got now this letter they need by the end of it. So we're always sort of like short order cooks doing a million things. And you need that mental agility to change gears all the time. Just simple strength of character where you don't let yourself get depressed and do things that are unethical or shortcuts or things that you hope you don't get found out about that, And then connection. Connection is really, really important. What do we mean by connection? I mean, having friends that you can talk to. So, but let's talk first of all, what is resilience? Here it is. Their definition, resilience is that ineffable quality that allows some people to be knocked down by life and come back stronger than ever. Rather than letting failure overcome, right, and drain them, they find a way to rise from the ashes. Even after misfortune, resilient people are blessed with an outlook that they're able to, change course, pick themselves up, and soldier on. So what is mental balance? That's the other part of it. A healthy psychological state of someone with good judgment and good mental health. The psychological state of someone who is functioning at a satisfactory level of emotional and behavioral justice. That's behavioral balance. Now, look, one of the best experts I ever saw testify was probably 35 years ago, and he was a psychiatrist, and back then they used to call it the manic depressive disorder, which now they is, caught in the bipolar sort of definitions. But manic depressive disorder is somebody gets very manic and they can accomplish incredible things and they can't move for a week. And he explained it like this. We all have an emotional range. We all have normal emotional ranges. And that is we can get very happy and get very sad. But we stay like an oscilloscope between certain boundaries. What happens when you have this bipolar or manic depressive, is you go outside. That oscilloscope goes way over the line where it's supposed to stop and way under the line where it's supposed to stop if you're looking at a normal oscilloscope. And I've always thought about that as a really good illustration of emotion, and that we are supposed to have this range just like an oscilloscope, but we shouldn't go outside it, right? All right, so if you have good mental balance and life throws something your way, you say to this, I can handle it, I have to handle this. And I think those of us who have had the absolute blessing of serving in the military, there are those times where we realize we are on our own and we have to handle a situation we didn't. And that was, to me, one of the biggest lessons I've got out of serving in the Army, is that I had to figure out a way how to handle something that came out of left field and I just couldn't ignore it. All right, but it starts with our own attitude. Listen to me again say that. If you face the day with an attitude like, I am going to do a good job for everyone today. The Japanese, my son works in Japan and has for 10 years, and they have a great attitude, and that is they never measure you by the level of what you're doing, whether you're a janitor or a physicist or a surgeon or this. They just measure how well you do that particular job. And if you are a great janitor, you get just as much respect in that culture as if you're a great, orthopedic surgeon. And I think that's a wonderful way to live life, because we all have our skill levels and we all have our abilities and we all have our different levels of concentration, but everybody who is maximizing that should be treated with respect. So have a good attitude towards people. Right spotting is looking for the good stuff in your life, looking for those things that, you're so happy about, like, wow, I get to go home and I have enough food in my refrigerator and I can go buy a tank of gas. Look, just those little things like, wow, I have a wonderful spouse, partner, significant other that I live with. It's a part of my wonderful part of my life. That's just terrific. Kenny Chesney, for those of you who know country music, he sings this song about a guy going into a bar and saying, give me the good stuff. And the bartender sings this song to him through his, lips and his song about, it's not about the alcohol. The good stuff was holding your baby girl. The good stuff is, this kind of stuff that makes you really feel good. And, I can't even go through the end of those words because it makes me, kind of get choked up, because it really is, it says, even when your spouse passes away, that's, and loving her throughout your life is the good stuff. So keep a good stuff journal. My wife is a psychotherapist. She says, look, every day write 3 good things that happened that day. 3 good things that happened that day. It could be as simple as there was no traffic jam on the Long Beach freeway today. That could be a good stuff. I put on here, the judge accepted my request for a change of venue, and now my client has a really good chance of winning. Or Mr. Jones just paid that large overdue bill today. If somebody owes you for an appeal and they owe you $5,000, and all of a sudden a check arrives, yay! That's a good stuff thing to put in your journals. Remember, positive attitudes change your brain chemistry and help you make better decisions. That really does. The study of those who rely on negatives to make decisions are often depressed. They are often depressed. Look for positive things. Look for positive ways to make decisions. It changes your brain chemistry. Emotional intelligence. These are the things we talked about before. The self-awareness, the ability to recognize your own emotions, the ability to stop. Give yourself a minute. We'll talk about this self-regulation. And your own triggers, having to deal with a certain clerk in a court or a judge that you despise could be a trigger for you. So you have to acknowledge, I am not going to, or let's just say it's just a neighborhood friend who your spouse or significant other bites over to dinner and you hate that person. That's a trigger for you. So know that this person is coming over. Don't bite into their, their attitude or their misinformation, whatever it is. Know how to control yourself. Self-control, management of your impulses, being flexible, motivation, setting personal goals, commitment, optimism, and action. There's so much to talk about here, but we don't have very much time with 30 minutes. So empathy, understanding and recognize the needs and the feelings of others. So often in life we see some poor person who doesn't have the benefit of this, and we just try to not empathize and say, well, it's probably his own fault because, he quit school and he did this. No, there is always going to be people who need our help. And there are always going to be people who, yes, they made bad decisions in life. That doesn't mean we should not be empathetic. So many of them, however, are, the one social psychologist said, I can tell you in a 75% degree of accuracy what you are going to be in life just based upon the zip code where you grew up, because that environmental factor is so important to how you are going to consider life. Social skills, sending a clear message, negotiating, resolving disagreements, relationships, cooperation, all of that is really important. Oh, did I really do that? Listen, are you feeling overwhelmed? Did you yell at somebody? They say when you're feeling overwhelmed and you want to just lose it. I was watching the news this morning, and there's a particular person that they're investigating, and during an NBC interview, he just lost it and started screaming. I won't mention his name, R. Kelly, but it was just like, I was thinking about giving this today and said, this guy needed to calm down. If he wants to be, credible, he needs to answer these questions and not just get up and use four-letter words all the time, because that's not going to help you. So the stop technique is stop, be still, put it down, quit whatever you're doing that's making you upset. Take several deep breaths and focus on your breathing. Feel that breath going in and out. Observe what's going on in your body, the tension, other sensations. When I get upset, I will hold my hands out in front of me, just like an old thing, to see it. And you will actually, I see, my God, my hands are shaking just because I'm so pissed about this, or I'm so upset about this. See, that's what's going on. I got to stop that. I'm not going to move until I get my hands to stop shaking. But then plan to take a moment to consider your next course of action and the consequences of what you're going to say. Same with us as lawyers sending emails. In the old days, we'd write those horrible emails and then we'd, put them in a drawer. But now we just hit send. So when you're doing the stop technique, you'll revise that email. Time management. Does it surprise anyone that the most common complaint against lawyers in the whole United States is my lawyer won't return my calls in a timely manner? Lawyers are bad managers of time. Make yourself rules about schedules, stick to them as much as possible. The number one piece of advice that can be given for time management organization is to learn how to say no. Now, I wrote those words, but I'm not sure I've ever learned how to say no myself. But I've gotten very good at time management. But it is, sometimes you just have to say no. In our efforts to be all things to all people, they ask us to serve on this board or do this or come to the pro bono meeting or do this. We often take on way more than we can competently accomplish. So what happens? We do a lot of things poorly. It's better to do some things very well than many things poorly. I finally learned to say no. Somebody asked me this morning before I got on this call, whether I would please be willing to serve on one of the major art organizations board of directors. And I finally had the guts to say no. I'm also serving on this very important Supreme Court committee, and I really need to finish my 3-year term before I give anything else to another organization that's going to take up time, because this is a very time-consuming committee on the revising the Texas disciplinary rules. So I was able to say no this morning. All right. Also, know the difference between urgent tasks. Let's talk about this. Urgent tasks versus important tasks. Urgent tasks are those things that draw your attention. The urge to immediately answer the email when it comes in. Boom, you're in the middle of a pleading, but here's an email. I wonder who it is. Well, let me go look at these. That's an urgent task. The urge to check Twitter, to check your messages, to hear that thing ding in your pocket and want to look at your phone immediately to see who just sent you a message. Those are urgent tasks, but they're not important tasks. Those are the tasks that are important to your service as a lawyer. Finishing the pleading, finishing that contract, meeting the deadline, communicating, making that call back to the courthouse. Do important tasks first. Please remember the difference between urgent and important. Urgent and important, because you need to do important things, but not the urgent things. Urgents are, let me check my Twitter account. Time management, good calendar, good task list. Right here on my desk, I have the 10 things I wanted to get done today. Now, I probably might make it through 5 or 6, but then the other 4 that I don't get to will be on tomorrow's list. Look at your calendar daily. Clutter-free office if you can, or at least identify which pile everything is in if you have 3 or 4 piles. Keep good records. I tell my kids that the essence of being a lawyer is managing the 100 to 150 pieces of paper or digital pieces of paper that come across every day, and seeing what you need to look at, what you need to save, and what you need to go on to. Stay on time. And it's important to have a backup person, especially if you know you might be interrupted. Achieving that work-life balance. Remember who's important in your life. Treat them like they're important. Don't take that significant other, that your boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, partner, whatever, for granted. Even on your busiest day, take the time for a kind word, a hug, something more. Well, of course, now we don't hug people at work because they frown on that. But communication is a big factor in the success of your personal relationships. It really is. I always say communication is the whole key to success in your whole life, whether it's the practice of law or whatever. Communicate with people actively, honestly, and with respect. There is a app that's been recommended if you have a whole family and you need to know when your son's choir practice is versus the daughter's kickball practice versus the other child's music lesson. There is a Cozy app which allows the whole family to post together. So if the son realizes he has a geography project due on March 31st, he'll put it up on the calendar and the whole family will see, whoa, you got a geography project. So if they want to do something that, they will see that it won't conflict with what you've got. All right. What's your purpose? What do you love to do? This was, the part of this was from an article I wrote about 10 years ago called Where's Waldo? Achieving this work-life balance. And asking yourself, don't just, great, I got a job as a, lawyer doing real estate 10 years ago, but do I really enjoy it? No, now I'm into it. I'm doing it because I know how to do it, but it gives me no joy. It sparks no joy in my life. So what are you good at? What are you okay at, but you really want to be good at? What are your personal values? Do you like helping people? Do you like creating new issues? Do you like writing? How would you like to be remembered? That's really an important thing. What would your obituary say? If you ask yourself that, that's a great way to find out what you'd like to do. What are your priorities? Is there something big you want to change? Passion plus action for that passion means a purposeful life. What's your passion and what action are you going to take for that? Here's an example of purpose. My mission is to learn to understand my clients' needs and the external factors affecting them so I can aggressively and professionally represent them. Or I help online business owners be fully booked by using my web design and search engine optimization skills to make sure customers and clients can find them online. Now, the other thing that really, lawyers are trained to carefully create a budget which incorporates their financial needs and income, but we don't do it. You need to know what your daily goal is. If I'm going to need to make, as part of whatever I need to bring home, if I'm in a 2-income household, what's my share of that I'm supposed to bring home? If I'm in a 1-income household, as we were when I was, we had kids, and my wife, who was wonderful, but she stayed home most of the time to take care of the children as we agreed. So I need to know, what do I need to bring home to pay the bills, to pay the car payments, to pay taxes, to all that. And then I broke that down into how much do I need to make 20 days a month, broke at 4 hours a day. So you really need to know those things. And when you see your daily goal is like mine at the time of 1989 was $500 a day. That's what I needed to bill and collect. And you see at the end of the day, yeah, I've got 3 or 4 hours that I'm pretty sure are going to get paid. You feel good that you're going to meet that daily goal. And I always exceeded it. But really creating a budget was important. So the perception of our clients, of course, is, yay, look at me. I'm a lawyer. I have $1 bazillion, whether or not it's true. But the reality is we all have our bills to pay. So you need to do those budgets so you make those bills. Okay, so financial stability. We really need to start planning early on. I was very lucky that I had an older lawyer that pounded on me way back in 1987 to start a simplified pension plan to put money in every year. And I did just religiously put money in every year so I could have my own retirement. Physical wellness. Do I know my important numbers, my cholesterol, what's my weight, my blood pressure, blood sugar levels? You really should know all that, because all those things change as you get older. I always had rock bottom, cholesterol until all of a sudden I turned 50 and my cholesterol was creeping up over 200, and I changed my diet because I didn't want to take those, drugs to lower it. So that's really how I handle that. Do I get my annual physical exams? Am I avoiding using tobacco products? Gosh, I think about my father's generation. We were always sitting in a TV room full of tobacco smoke in the air because everybody smoked back then. And do I get a sufficient amount of sleep? Or do I have an established? That's the most important thing for me, is have that exercise routine that I do every day. Look, no one's telling you need to train for the Olympics. Start off slow, build your endurance. One of the worst things you can do is go out, well, I'm going to run a half a marathon, and then, of course, you can't move for a month. Start out slow. Take a walk. Do something, but do something. All right, connection. Humans are wired, right? We are absolutely wired to need each other. And not just any social, connect with your people, whether it's your family or your friends. Watch out for them. When you see something, I think the best thing about some of these apps on LinkedIn, when I see my friends accomplish something or got some award, I always reach out to say, hey, Donna, that was great. Congratulations. You deserve to get that award, or something. Congratulations on your 10 years with the company. Just those little things to show them that you're thinking about them. The other thing that I do with my clients, which I think is a really important thing, is I go in on the weekend. And just to communicate with clients, I'll send like 10 two-sentence emails. Hi, Bob. I know you're expecting us to get the interrogatories, but they asked for a 30-day extension, so I knew the judge would give it to him. It was the first extension, so I did. So now the interrogatories aren't coming in until, March 13th, but I just want you to know that I'm thinking about your case. So if you have any questions, give me a call. Clients love getting those little connecting emails to say, I am your lawyer, and I'm thinking about you and your case, and you can always call me about it. And I will never be one of those lawyers who doesn't return your calls. So send those little emails out. Look through the newspaper. Look through your bar journal. When something good happens to friends, write them that little two-sentence email. Congratulations. That's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I'm so proud of you for doing that. So all of those things, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, you need contact with other people. You need the connections in your life to feel grounded and well. Humans are wired, right, to need social interactions, not just any social interactions. Connect with the people that you love or you want to be friends with. Your people are attorneys and what they do. They know the same type of problems and cases you have on a daily basis. They have the same struggles and staff and office management. And you know what they also have, which I continue to tell you is the best research tool in the world? A telephone. Call somebody when you're having a struggle in your practice and you have a case that you don't know what to do with. Lawyers are so good, in my experience, about sharing their time, their wisdom, their forms, and everything like that. So that's what is really, really important. Pick up that phone, call people. They will help you with those struggles. Get out there, go to lunches, go to dinners, go to the CLEs, talk to your neighbor, exchange business card, bump your smartphones, add that bonus of networking to your life, and you will not regret it. The other thing I say is I've been a huge bar groupie my whole life, and that is I've been on everything, every board, and they always say, well, Claude, did that ever return to work? Absolutely it did. Humans are driven through their unconscious mind, which is incapable of absorbing a negative don't. We are positive, and we tend to forget the word don't. That's a perfect example of this, and I know we're winding down our time here, is this whole controversy of whether inoculations cause autism. When you spread the word that inoculations do not cause autism, remember, our brains over time knock out that adverb of negation, not. And so always tend to remember there's two concepts, inoculations and autism. Inoculations and autism. So present things in inoculations are better for human health and growth and development. Put a positive message rather than a negative message. That's the way you connect with people. How you frame a question for your audience is so important. Finally, so we care about you, so you care about you, and you can work on you. I have so many forms. If any of you want forms for client contracts or anything, or have any questions, I invite you to email me. Oh, they didn't have it's just Claude@lawpay.com. Claude@lawpay.com, and we're very happy always to help you. I think we're probably out of time, and I appreciate, again, anybody who wants to contact me. I'm ready to help. Claude@lawpay.com. Back to you, Gabriella.
All right. Well, that is all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank our sponsor, LawPay, and for all of you for attending our webinar today. I'd also like to give a special thank you to Claude for presenting today. And if there's nothing else to add, we will now conclude the webinar.